As we left the Breens, I told Cian that I'd seen Tony watching us with his binoculars and that now he'd headed off somewhere on foot. I told Cian to go and follow him while I checked out his room.
Megan threatened to call the police, and I wasn't ready to take that step yet with our guest. So instead I tailed him down the road, practicing in my head what I might say to him if I actually caught up with him. Oh, hey, Tony, what, this? Oh no, this is just a service we supply where we follow our guests all around Dublin in case they need anything. Does that seem crazy to you at all? No? Okay, great. I'm glad you see things that way. Thank you.
I approached the room like it was a slumbering monster. This was our spare room, and now it seemed like it was the lair of the enemy. I turned the lock and opened the door. It was pitch black.
I'd never actually tailed anyone before. I mean, it's tricky. Sometimes I'd have to speed up so that I didn't lose sight of him, and sometimes I'd have to slow down because he was stopped at the lights and I didn't want to run into him. It reminded me of a salsa class that Megan and I had done one time, but this time outside on the street. Kind of like cross-country salsa.
I pressed the light switch. Everything looked normal. There was no bear trap, no Japanese sword or coat made out of human skin. Just a suitcase on the bed. I approached it warily. I reached down, braced myself, and flipped open the suitcase. Clothes. I dug deeper. More clothes. I started to wonder if I'd misread things.
We reached the park. Tony entered it and I ducked down behind a wall. Ahead of Tony there was a woman. Tony walked up behind her. She didn't see him. I started to get alarmed, so I got ready to run in case I needed to run in and save her or run away for help. But then she turned around and she seemed to recognize it.
I stood there slightly confused. Surely there was something. I poked around in the bedside locker, but again nothing. Then I walked over to the armoire and opened its triple-tinged doors. And that's when I saw them.
I watched as Tony and the woman talked. They were too far away to hear what they were saying. They just seemed to be chatting. I was spying on our guest and his friend just having a chat on the park. I shook my head and started to get up to leave, but then she took something out of her bag. It was a gun.
Plans and diagrams for a bomb. Now, I've never seen plans for a bomb before, but this was the most bomb-looking set of diagrams that I've ever seen. I grabbed the plans, I got out of the room, I ran down the stairs and I reached for the front door and I opened it and I let the weight of the front door propel me outside straight into Cian.
Megan ricocheted off me, but I managed to catch her before she fell.
We've got to get out of here! Cian and I ran out the gate. Cian grabbed my hand and I pulled out my phone from my pocket and started dialing, which was a lot harder to do with just one hand, but I clung to the safety of Cian's hand nonetheless.
As we ran out of our front garden, Megan called the police.
Hi, there's a crazy man in our house. But no, not exactly. We invited him in. Well, we didn't know he was crazy then.
I ducked us down behind a car so that we wouldn't be seen, but then Megan looked at me confused.
No, we've no intention of interfering with him. We don't want him to interfere with us. I didn't understand what the hell they were talking about. They were acting like we were getting in his way. Yeah, we're getting in the way of him killing us. I hung up in disgust.
What did they say?
They said that we should just stay away from him.
Well, we should.
At that point, the car that myself and Cian were hiding behind drove away, leaving us exposed. Cian pulled us into a garden.
Oh! Hello, Mr. Breen. Mr. Breen was gardening at 10 o'clock at night.
Mrs. Breen led us into their living room. It was a relief to have somewhere secure to hide.
Mr. Breen offered to make us some tea and they went off into the kitchen. Once they'd left, I turned to Megan and asked what she'd found in Tony's room.
I'd forgotten I was holding them. I opened the plans and showed them to Cian.
I looked down at the diagrams. Megan, these are plans for a wind turbine. I printed these out.
What? Why?
Well, I don't know, I was just looking for something to talk about.
Okay, so he hadn't printed a bomb. But Cian had seen him with a gun.
Absolutely, he got a gun off a woman in the park.
In the park? That rang a bell. Yes, on the phone he said he'd meet the FO in the park.
FO? You mean like firearms officer?
Firearms officer? What the hell is a firearms officer?
A firearms officer. I didn't know how to explain it other than a firearms officer, so I just said the words again.
Why is a firearms officer giving some random maniac a gun? Oh no. Because he's not a random maniac. He's a guard. That's why he's acting so quiet and weird. Oh no. He's undercover. He's doing surveillance on someone.
On us? But he doesn't want to talk to us.
Yeah, he just stays in his room the whole time.
So, what can you see from our spare room?
It was at that moment that Mrs. and Mr. Breen came back in the room. My heart stopped cold. Cian was looking at me, terrified, but trying to hide it.
I guess there's kind of a simpatico that can form when a couple has been together long enough. I always know when Megan wants to leave a party, and she can tell when I need food even before I can. And I suppose that's how, without saying anything or even looking at each other, at the exact same moment, Megan and I launched out of our seats and punched the Breens in the face.
Everything else is a blur. Tony and the guards burst through the door. The Breens were swearing and flinging punches. We were in the back of an ambulance at one point. The guards interviewed us. It turns out they found 7 dead bodies buried in the back of the Breens' garden.
To be fair, Tony did behave pretty strangely for a guard. I mean, he could have given us a hint as to what was going on. And I'm still not sure why he didn't eat the crepe Suzette. And he never left us a review.